Captain Jiwon Park stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon and watched the stars beyond the main viewport. Her ship moved through the neutral zone between human space and Velcoran territory. Everything looked calm, but she knew better. The calmness was fake. It was all part of a show that humanity had been performing for 30 years. She touched the control panel and checked the sensor readings. All systems showed green. The ship looked perfect from the outside. Clean hull, advanced scanning equipment, weapon systems that hummed with power. Any alien species watching would think the Horizon was one of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. That was the point. That was the lie. The truth was different. The Horizon used fusion engines that were common technology 60 years ago. The shields were basic plasma screens that any decent military could punch through. The weapons were missiles and energy cannons that worked fine but were nothing special. Earth had joined the galactic community as a weak species, and they had spent 3 decades pretending to be strong. Commander Sung-Ho Lee walked up beside her. He carried a datapad and his face looked worried. Ji-won knew that expression. It meant trouble. "Captain, we have a situation," Sung-Ho said quietly. 3 Velcoran destroyers just entered human territory. Sector 7 near the mining colonies. Ji-won felt her stomach tighten. The Velcorans had been testing them more and more over the past 6 months. Each time, Earth forces had used tricks and careful positioning to make the aliens back down without fighting. Each time it got harder. "Show me," she said. The main screen changed to show a tactical map. 3 red dots moved slowly across the invisible line that marked human space. They were not attacking anything yet. They were just there waiting to see what Earth would do. "Set course to intercept," Ji-won ordered, "but keep our distance. I want them to see us coming from far away." The Horizon turned smoothly and accelerated. Ji-won watched the numbers on her screen. Speed, distance, energy output. Everything had to look threatening without actually being threatening. She needed the Velcorans to believe they were facing something dangerous. 3 years ago, Ambassador Young-Mi Han had sat in the Galactic Council chambers and delivered a speech that changed everything. Ji-won remembered watching the recording later. The ambassador had stood before representatives from 200 species and talked about Earth's commitment to peace. But the way she talked made it sound like Earth could destroy anyone who broke that peace. "Humanity believes in diplomatic solutions," the ambassador had said. "We have weapons that could sterilize planets, but we choose not to use them. We have ships that could cross the galaxy in days, but we prefer to respect established borders. We have defensive systems that make invasion impossible, but we welcome peaceful visitors." Every word was technically true. Humanity did have weapons that could sterilize planets. They were called nuclear missiles, and every major species had them. Earth did have defensive systems that made invasion difficult. So did everyone else. But the way Ambassador Han said these things made them sound like Earth had technology beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The best part was what she did not say. She never claimed Earth had faster-than-light travel. She just said they chose not to cross the galaxy quickly. She never said their weapons were unique. She just said they were powerful. The other species filled in the blanks with their own fears. It had worked for 3 decades. Until now. "Captain, the Velcoran ships are scanning us," Sung-Ho reported. "Active sensor sweeps across all frequencies." Ji-won nodded. This was new behavior. Before, Velcoran ships would retreat as soon as Earth vessels appeared. Now they were gathering data. They were testing. "Activate jamming protocols," she said. "Make them work for every byte of information. And broadcast this message on all channels." She pressed a button on her command chair. Her voice would reach the Velcoran ships in seconds. "Velcoran vessels, you have entered human territory without authorization. This is a violation of Council law. You have 2 minutes to reverse course, or we will be forced to take defensive action." She kept her voice cold and confident. The Horizon moved into a position that blocked the Velcoran approach to the mining colonies. Her weapons officer powered up the missile systems. The targeting computers locked onto all 3 enemy ships. Everything looked aggressive and ready. The Velcoran ships stopped moving. Ji-won could imagine the alien commanders talking to each other, deciding what to do. They had better shields than the Horizon. They had stronger weapons. In a real fight, they would probably win. But they did not know that for certain. And that uncertainty was Earth's greatest weapon. 1 minute passed. Then another. Finally, the 3 Velcoran destroyers turned and moved back across the border. They accelerated slowly, as if showing they were not afraid, just being respectful of boundaries. "They are leaving," Sung-ho said. But Captain, look at this. He brought up a data analysis on the secondary screen. The Velcoran scan patterns showed exactly what they had been looking for. Engine emissions, shield frequencies, weapon signatures. They had gathered a complete technical profile of the horizon. They know, Ji-won said quietly. Or they suspect, Sung-ho replied. This was not a random border crossing, Captain. This was intelligence gathering. They are building a database of human technology. Ji-won sat back in her command chair. The weight of the situation pressed down on her. For 30 years, Earth had maintained peace through reputation. But reputations only worked if nobody checked the facts. The Velcorans were checking. Send a priority message to Admiral Tae-sung Kim, she said. Include all sensor logs from this encounter. Tell him the Velcorans are conducting systematic analysis of our capabilities. Yes, Captain. The Horizon resumed its patrol route. Ji-won watched the Velcoran ships disappear from sensors. They would report back to their commanders. They would analyze the data. And eventually, they would figure out that Earth's reputation was built on nothing but clever words and careful positioning. On Earth Defense Station 1, Admiral Tae-sung Kim received the message 6 hours later. He read it twice, then called a meeting with his senior staff. They gathered in the secure briefing room, a place with no windows and walls that blocked all signals. Commander Sung-ho Lee attended via hologram from the horizon. Ambassador Young Mi-han came in person, fresh from a council session. Dr. Hae-rin Choi, Earth's chief weapons scientist, sat across from the Admiral with a concerned expression. This is the 5th incident in 2 months, Admiral Kim said without introduction. The Velcorans are not just testing our borders anymore. They are studying us. They are looking for weaknesses, Ambassador Han said. High Commander Vexithar has been vocal in the Council about his belief that humanity is bluffing. He thinks our reputation is fake. He is right, Dr. Choi said bluntly. Our reputation is fake. Our ships use standard technology. Our weapons are conventional. If the Velcorans analyze the data properly, they will see that we are no more advanced than a dozen other species. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. He was a man who had spent his entire career managing this deception. He knew every trick, every careful phrase, every strategic positioning that made Earth seem stronger than it was, and he knew it was ending. The question is what we do when they figure it out, he said. Do we maintain the illusion as long as possible? Or do we prepare for a different approach? Dr. Choi leaned forward. She had been waiting for this moment for 10 years. There is a third option, she said. We could show them what we actually have. The room went quiet. Everyone knew what she meant. Project Longbow. The secret that Earth had kept hidden from every sensor, every spy, every intelligence network in the galaxy. Admiral Kim looked at each person in turn. Captain Ji-won Park on the hologram display, Ambassador Han with her diplomatic experience, Dr. Choi with her scientific certainty, Commander Lee with his intelligence analysis. Not yet, he said finally, but soon. Very soon. The attack started 3 weeks later. Not big attacks, not invasions, just small, precise strikes that seemed designed to make humanity react. Mining Station Epsilon was the first target. The station sat in an asteroid field in the outer territories, far from the main shipping lanes. 43 miners worked there pulling rare metals from the rocks. It was isolated and poorly defended, an easy target. Captain Ji-won Park received the distress call while the horizon was 2 hours away at maximum speed. She listened to the panicked voices of the miners as Velcoran raiders destroyed equipment and damaged the station's power systems. But the raiders did not kill anyone. They did not steal anything. They just broke things and left. When the horizon arrived, G1 found the station limping on emergency power. The miners were scared but alive. The damage was expensive but repairable. Everything about the attack felt calculated. They wanted us to see this, Commander Sung-ho Lee said as they reviewed the sensor logs. Look at the weapons patterns. They used standard raider tactics, but they held back. They could have destroyed the entire station in seconds. Ji-won studied the tactical display. Sung-ho was right. The Velcoran ships had fired precisely, hitting storage tanks and communication arrays but avoiding the habitation modules. Professional soldiers did not fight like that unless they had orders to minimize damage. They are testing us, she said. They want to see how we respond to a direct attack. 2 days later, another attack hit a cargo transport near the frontier. 4 days after that, raiders struck a communication relay. Each attack followed the same pattern: destroy property, gather data, avoid casualties, then retreat before Earth forces could respond. Admiral Tae-sung. Kim watched the pattern develop from his command center on Earth Defense Station 1. A massive holographic display showed all of human space, with red marks appearing where the Velkorans had attacked. The marks formed a line, moving steadily closer to the core territories. They are mapping our response times, Commander Sung-Ho Lee explained during the daily briefing. Each attack happens a little deeper into our space. They are measuring how fast our ships can react, what routes we use, what formations we deploy, and what have they learned? Admiral Kim asked. That we are exactly what we appear to be, Sung-Ho said quietly. Our ships use fusion drives. Our weapons are missiles and energy cannons. Our shields are plasma-based. There is nothing unusual, nothing unexpected. On the Velkoran flagship Conquest's edge, High Commander Vexthar reviewed the same data with satisfaction. His intelligence officers had compiled a complete technical analysis of human military capability. The results confirmed everything he had suspected. Fleet Admiral Corvin stood beside him, studying the holographic displays. He was a career military officer, experienced and cautious. The data troubled him. The humans are using standard technology, Vexthar said with a thin smile. Their fusion drives are efficient but nothing special. Their shields use the same plasma configurations that we developed 80 years ago. Their weapons are conventional. Then why have they maintained such a strong reputation? Corvin asked. The Council has treated humanity as a major power for 3 decades because they lied, Vexthar said simply. They used careful language and strategic positioning to create an illusion of strength, but our tests have exposed the truth. Humanity is weak, Corvin was not convinced. Something about the situation felt wrong. Humanity had avoided major conflicts for decades, but they had also never backed down from a challenge. Their diplomatic posture was too confident for a species that was actually vulnerable. What do you recommend? He asked carefully. We escalate, Vexthar said. We launch a larger operation, take one of their mining colonies and force them to either fight or surrender. When they cannot match our military power, the rest of the galaxy will see that humanity has been bluffing. Ambassador Young-Mi Han was recalled to Earth for emergency consultations. She arrived at Defense Station 1 tired and frustrated. The Council was in chaos. Species that had respected humanity for decades were now questioning whether Earth deserved its seat at the diplomatic table. She met with Admiral Kim, Captain Park via hologram, Commander Lee, and Dr. Heirin Choi in the secure briefing room. The atmosphere was tense. The Velkorans are making formal complaints to the Council, Ambassador Han reported. They claim we have been occupying territory that should be open to all species. They are building a legal case for intervention, which means they are preparing for a larger military action, Admiral Kim said. They want Council approval or at least Council neutrality. We cannot maintain the deception much longer, Captain Park said from the hologram. Every encounter gives them more data. Eventually, they will have enough information to predict our every move. Dr. Choi had been quiet through most of the meeting. Now she spoke up. We need to talk about Project Longbow, she said. Everyone turned to look at her. Project Longbow was the most classified program in human history. Only a handful of people knew the full details. The Velkorans have scanned our ships, Dr. Choi continued. They have analyzed our weapons, our shields, our engines. They think they understand our capabilities. But they have never seen Project Longbow because Longbow is not on our ships. She activated a holographic display. It showed human space with hundreds of small markers scattered throughout. Each marker represented a weapons platform hidden in asteroid fields on remote moons, inside seemingly abandoned mining operations. When we joined the galactic community, we realized we were behind in most technologies, Dr. Choi explained. We did not have faster-than-light travel. We did not have exotic shields or energy weapons that could punch through planetary defenses, so we focused on what we could do well. She zoomed in on one of the markers. The display showed a magnetic acceleration system built into an asteroid. It looked like mining equipment, but the specifications told a different story. Kinetic weapons, Commander Lee breathed. Kinetic weapons at relativistic velocities, Dr. Choi corrected. We use magnetic accelerators to launch projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The targeting systems are controlled by artificial intelligence that can calculate trajectories, accounting for time dilation and relativistic effects. She brought up technical specifications. The projectiles were simple, just dense metal cylinders, but at relativistic speeds they carried enormous kinetic energy, more energy than most ship-mounted weapons could deliver. The galaxy develops energy shields because everyone uses energy weapons, Dr. Choi said. But energy shields are designed to deflect or absorb directed energy. They are not designed to handle kinetic impacts at these velocities. The force transfer is too great. The shields just overload. Ambassador Han stared at the display. She had spent 3 decades building humanity's reputation through careful language and diplomatic skill. Now she was seeing the reality behind the illusion. How many platforms do we have? She asked. 412 throughout human space, Dr. Choi replied. Each one can fire multiple projectiles with different trajectories. The AI coordination system can manage simultaneous strikes across dozens of targets. And nobody knows about this? Captain Park asked. The platforms look like mining operations or sensor stations, Dr. Choi explained. We have been building them slowly over 20 years. The magnetic accelerators can be mistaken for ore processing equipment. The AI systems are distributed, so there is no central target to discover. Admiral Kim sat back in his chair. He had known about Project Longbow in general terms, but seeing the full scope was overwhelming. Humanity had not been lying about their capabilities. They had just been hiding different capabilities than everyone assumed. If we reveal this, Ambassador Han said slowly, we change everything. The galaxy will know we have been conducting a deception for decades. Yes, Admiral Kim agreed. But if we do not reveal it, the Velkorans will keep pushing. Eventually, they will attack something we cannot afford to lose. And if we try to defend with conventional forces, we will lose. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the weight of the decision. For 30 years, humanity had maintained peace through reputation. Now they had to decide whether to maintain that reputation through revelation. We give them one warning, Admiral Kim said finally. One clear, direct warning with no diplomatic language and no room for misinterpretation. We tell them exactly what will happen if they continue. And if they ignore that warning, we show them Project Longbow. Ambassador Han nodded slowly. Captain Park confirmed from the hologram. Commander Lee pulled up communication protocols. Dr. Choi began preparing the activation sequences for the weapons platforms. The era of deception was ending. One way or another, the galaxy was about to learn the truth about humanity. Ambassador Young Mi Han stood before the Galactic Council for what might be the last time as a respected diplomat. The chamber was a massive circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from 200 species watched her with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. She had addressed this council dozens of times over the years. She had built relationships, negotiated treaties, and crafted the careful language that made humanity seem powerful. Today, all of that diplomatic skill would be set aside. Today, she would speak with complete directness. The session had been called at Earth's request. High Commander Vexthar attended via holographic projection from his flagship. He looked confident, almost amused. He believed he had exposed humanity's weakness. Ambassador Han activated her microphone. Her voice filled the chamber. Members of the Council, I speak to you today not as a negotiator but as a messenger. For 30 years, humanity has maintained peaceful relations with all member species through careful diplomacy and strategic restraint. We have avoided conflicts not because we feared them, but because we preferred peace. She paused, letting the words settle. The Velkoran Empire has conducted systematic attacks on human territory. These attacks have been deliberate provocations designed to test our response and gather intelligence on our capabilities. We have responded with restraint. That restraint ends now. Vexthar's hologram flickered with what might have been a smile. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Councillor Miralyn, representing the peaceful Etherian species, watched Han with keen attention. This is my message to the Velkoran Empire, Han continued. All attacks on human territory must cease immediately. Any Velkoran military vessel that crosses into human space will be considered an act of war and will be met with defensive action. This is not a negotiation. This is not a diplomatic position. This is a final warning. The chamber erupted in noise. Representatives began talking to each other, their translators creating a chaotic mix of languages. Vexthar's hologram stood up. The human ambassador speaks boldly, Vexthar said, his voice cutting through the noise. but we have analyzed your technology. We have scanned your ships. We know that your reputation is built on deception. You use conventional fusion drives and standard weapon systems. Your shields are decades behind Velcoran technology. He gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing technical schematics of human ships. The data was accurate. It showed everything the Velcorans had learned from their provocations. Your threats are empty, Vextar continued. The galaxy has feared humanity for 3 decades because you spoke well and positioned carefully. But when pressed, you have nothing. The Velcoran Empire will not be intimidated by words. Ambassador Han listened calmly. She had expected this response. She looked directly at Vextar's hologram. High Commander, you are correct that our ships use conventional technology. You are correct that our reputation has been built partly on perception rather than demonstration. But you have made a critical error in your analysis. She brought up her own display. It showed nothing classified, just a simple statement. You have scanned our ships. You have not scanned our space. The warning stands. Cross into human territory, and you will discover what you failed to find. Vextar laughed. The sound was harsh and dismissive. Your riddles mean nothing, Ambassador. The Velcoran Empire will take what is owed to us by right of superior strength. Counselor Miralyn stood. Her species valued wisdom and caution. She had served on the Council for 60 years, and had seen many conflicts escalate from misunderstanding. High Commander, she said carefully, perhaps we should investigate the human claims before taking military action. Ambassador Han has always been truthful in her communications, even when the truth was delivered carefully. Investigation is for the weak, Vextar responded. The Velcoran military acts on facts, not diplomatic games. He turned his attention back to Han. Within 6 hours, a Velcoran battle group will enter human space and establish control over Sector 7. If you wish to defend it, you're welcome to try. The galaxy will finally see the truth about humanity. The hologram disappeared. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. Ambassador Han collected her data pad and walked toward the exit. Counselor Miralyn caught up with her in the corridor. Ambassador Han, what will happen when the Velcoran fleet crosses the border? Han looked at her friend and ally. Miralyn deserved honesty. They will learn that humanity has been hiding something, but not what they think. We were not hiding weakness behind strong words. We were hiding different strength. Aboard the ESS Horizon, Captain Jiwon Park received notification of the council session outcome. She read Ambassador Han's final warning and Vextar's response. Then she called her senior officers to the bridge. The Velcoran battle group will arrive in approximately 6 hours, Commander Sung-Ho Lee reported. 20 warships, including 4 heavy cruisers. They are not hiding their approach. This is meant to be a show of force. Jiwon studied the tactical display. 20 Velcoran warships against her 3 patrol vessels. In a conventional fight, the outcome would be decisive. The Velcorans would win easily. Deploy warning buoys along the border, she ordered. Standard format. Any vessel crossing into human space will be engaged. Make sure the message broadcasts in all known languages. The crew set to work. Small automated buoys were launched from the Horizon's cargo bay. They positioned themselves exactly on the border between human and Velcoran space. Each one broadcast the same message on repeat. Warning, you are approaching the boundary of human territory. Unauthorized entry is prohibited. Any military vessel crossing this boundary will be engaged with lethal force. This is your only warning. On Earth, Dr. Heirin Choi worked in the command center for Project Longbow. The facility was buried deep underground, shielded from every type of scan. Banks of computers showed the status of 412 weapons platforms scattered throughout human space. Admiral Tai Sung Kim stood beside her, watching the displays. All platforms report ready status, Dr. Choi said quietly. The AI targeting system is online. We have calculated firing solutions for the entire Velcoran battle group. Show me the engagement plan. A 3-dimensional map appeared. It showed human space with the approaching Velcoran fleet as red markers. Green lines traced trajectories from hidden weapons platforms to intercept points. The platforms will fire in stages, Dr. Choi explained. First wave targets their command ships and heavy cruisers. The projectiles are traveling at 0.2 light speed, so impact occurs within seconds of firing. Their sensors will detect the weapons too late for effective countermeasures. Admiral Kim studied the trajectories. Each line represented a metal cylinder accelerated to velocities that would make it essentially unstoppable. The kinetic energy at impact would overwhelm any shield designed to deflect energy weapons. What about collateral damage? He asked. Minimal, Dr. Choi replied. The targeting system calculates trajectories that will cause the destroyed vessels to drift away from populated areas. Debris will be in stable orbits that can be cleared later. The Admiral nodded slowly. He had authorized the development of Project Longbow 15 years ago. He had approved the construction of each platform. He had known this moment might come, but knowing and experiencing were different things. If they cross the border, he said finally, you have authorization to fire. Make it surgical. Disable their ability to fight, but give them the option to retreat. Understood, Admiral. Fleet Admiral Corvin led the Velcoran battle group toward human space with growing unease. High Commander Vexthar had ordered this operation personally. It was meant to expose human weakness and demonstrate Velcoran superiority. But Corvin remembered the certainty in Ambassador Han's voice. He had fought enough battles to recognize when an opponent was genuinely confident versus when they were bluffing. The human ambassador had not sounded like someone who was bluffing. His tactical officer reported from the sensor station, Admiral, we are detecting warning buoys along the border, standard broadcast format. They are repeating a warning about lethal force. Ignore them, Corvin ordered, following his instructions from Vexthar. Proceed across the border in battle formation. Shields at maximum, all weapons charged. The Velcoran fleet crossed the invisible line that marked human territory. Corvin watched his tactical display carefully. The 3 human patrol ships were withdrawing to a safe distance. That made sense. They were clearly outmatched, but still, something felt wrong. Admiral, the sensor officer said suddenly, I am detecting multiple radiation spikes throughout the system. Sources unknown. Pattern suggests weapons discharge. Corvin opened his mouth to order evasive maneuvers, but the words never came. The first impacts arrived faster than thought, and the Velcoran battle group learned what humanity had been hiding. The first projectile struck the Velcoran heavy cruiser Dominator amidships. The impact happened so fast that the ship's sensors barely registered the incoming object before it hit. A cylinder of dense metal traveling at 20% of light. Speed carried kinetic energy equivalent to a medium-yield nuclear weapon. The cruiser's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb explosive impacts, were completely ineffective. The projectile passed through the shield as if it did not exist. The kinetic energy transfer was catastrophic. The ship's hull ruptured. Internal compartments explosive decompressed. Secondary systems overloaded from the shockwave. The Dominator broke apart in 3 pieces. 2 seconds later, 4 more impacts hit different targets throughout the Velcoran battle group. Fleet Admiral Corvin watched in shock as his tactical display suddenly showed 5 ships either destroyed or critically damaged. His mind struggled to process what was happening. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted. All ships scatter pattern delta, maximum thrust. His tactical officer was already working the controls, but his voice shook with confusion. Admiral, I do not understand the attack pattern. The sensors show radiation spikes consistent with weapons fire, but the projectiles are traveling at relativistic velocities. No ship-mounted weapon system can achieve these speeds. Corvin understood immediately. The weapons were not ship-mounted. They were coming from fixed positions throughout the system. The humans had seeded their space with hidden weapons platforms. The Velcoran fleet began emergency maneuvers. Ships scattered in different directions, trying to become harder targets. But the AI systems controlling the human weapons had already calculated the evasion patterns. The targeting solutions updated in real time. 3 more impacts destroyed a destroyer and crippled 2 frigates. The human weapons were firing from multiple angles, making defensive positioning impossible. Every ship that tried to raise shields found them useless. Every attempt to return fire found no targets. From the bridge of the ESS Horizon, Captain Ji-won Park watched the engagement with professional detachment. Her orders were clear: maintain distance. Observe. Do not engage unless the Velcoran fleet attempts to attack human civilian targets. Commander Sung-Ho Lee stood beside her, monitoring the tactical data. Project Longbow has fired 18 projectiles, he reported. 8 ships destroyed or disabled. The remaining Velcoran vessels are attempting to retreat back across the border. Let them go, Ji-won ordered. Open a channel to the Velcoran flagship. The communication system activated. G1's face appeared on every Velcoran ship's display. Velcoran Fleet, this is Captain Park of the ESS Horizon. You were warned. You are now experiencing what happens when you ignore that warning. Leave human space immediately. Any ship that remains will be destroyed. This is your final chance. She closed the channel without waiting for a response. Fleet Admiral Corvin stared at his display. 8 ships lost in less than 30 seconds. His flagship had been hit once, a glancing strike that had destroyed an entire weapons battery, but left the ship operational. It was clearly deliberate. The humans could have destroyed his ship completely. They chose not to. All ships retreat across the border, he ordered. Maximum speed. Do not fire weapons. Do not engage. The Velcoran battle group fled. Ships that had entered human space with confidence now ran at maximum acceleration. Behind them, the debris of destroyed vessels drifted in slowly spreading clouds. In the Galactic Council chambers, the engagement had been broadcast by independent observers. Council members watched in stunned silence as the Velcoran fleet was systematically dismantled by weapons they had never seen before. Councillor Miralyn sat forward in her seat studying the technical data. The human weapons were elegant in their simplicity. No exotic technology, no energy weapons that required rare materials or complex power systems. Just mass, velocity, and precision targeting. A representative from the Corthan species, known for their engineering expertise, spoke up. Those are kinetic weapons operating at relativistic velocities. The impact energy is extraordinary, but more importantly, this completely bypasses the defensive technologies that our civilizations have developed over millennia. Energy shields are useless against solid projectiles at these speeds. Another counselor, representing a species that prided itself on military strength, spoke with obvious concern. How many of these weapons platforms do the humans have? Where are they located? What is their maximum range? Councillor Miralyn responded calmly. Those are exactly the questions we should not be asking. The humans have maintained peaceful relations for 3 decades. They revealed these weapons only when directly attacked. We should respect that restraint, not interrogate their defensive capabilities. Ambassador Young Mi Han entered the council chamber. She had been waiting outside, knowing that her presence during the engagement would be inappropriate. Now she walked to the central platform. Members of the council, she began. You have witnessed Earth's response to military aggression. I want to emphasize several points. First, the engagement was entirely defensive. We fired only after Velcoran forces crossed into human territory despite clear warnings. Second, we used minimal force necessary to end the threat. Our weapons could have destroyed the entire Velcoran fleet. We chose to disable and deter instead. She paused, meeting the eyes of various council members. Third, and most important, humanity's policy has not changed. We seek peaceful relations with all species. We will defend our territory when necessary, but we have no interest in conquest or expansion. The weapons you saw today have existed for 20 years. We have never used them offensively. We revealed them only when we had no other choice. The Corthan representative spoke again. Ambassador, Han, you said these weapons have existed for 20 years. Does this mean humanity has been conducting a long-term deception about your capabilities? Han considered the question carefully. Honesty was important now. Yes, she said simply. When humanity joined the galactic community, we were technologically behind in most areas. We did not have faster-than-light travel. We did not have the exotic materials and energy technologies that older civilizations possess. Rather than advertise our limitations, we used careful language to suggest capabilities without making false claims. She brought up a holographic display showing historical diplomatic communications. If you review our statements over the years, you will find that we never claimed to have specific advanced technologies. We spoke in general terms about our defensive capabilities and our commitment to peace. The galactic community assumed we possessed certain technologies because we spoke confidently. That assumption was useful, so we did not correct it. Meanwhile, we developed weapons based on technologies we understood well. Kinetic systems, magnetic acceleration, artificial intelligence for targeting. These are not exotic. They are applications of basic physics, but we applied them in ways that the galaxy had not anticipated because everyone else focused on energy-based weapons and defenses. On the Velcoran, homeworld, High Commander Vexthar watched the Council broadcast with growing horror. His gamble had failed catastrophically. He had believed human weakness would be exposed. Instead, his own miscalculation was now visible to the entire galaxy. The Velcoran Supreme Council, the ruling body of the Empire, had already issued orders for his immediate return. His military career was over, possibly his freedom as well. He had led the Empire into a humiliating defeat based on faulty intelligence and arrogant assumptions. Fleet Admiral Quarven composed a formal message to Earth's military command. His hands shook slightly as he recorded it. He had survived the engagement. Many of his officers had not. To Admiral Taesung Kim, Earth Defense Forces. I am Fleet Admiral Quarven of the Velcoran Empire. I acknowledge full responsibility for violating human territory. The action was ordered by High Commander Vexthar against my recommendation. I offer formal apology for the deaths of human civilians in our earlier provocations and request cessation of hostilities. The Velcoran Empire withdraws all claims to disputed territories and will respect human sovereignty going forward. He attached documentation of casualties, damage assessments, and proposed reparations. Then he sent the message and waited. On Earth Defense Station 1, Admiral Kim received the message and read it carefully. Dr. Hei Rin Choi stood beside him in the command center. They are asking for peace, she said. Yes, Kim replied. And we will grant it. That was always the goal, not conquest, not revenge, just security. He composed a response accepting the Velcoran apology and outlining terms for peaceful relations. The terms were fair. Humanity wanted neighbors, not subjects. Captain Jiwon Park received orders to resume normal patrol operations. The crisis was over. The Velcoran fleet had retreated. Project Longbow was standing down to passive monitoring mode. She stood on the bridge of the horizon and looked out at the stars. They looked the same as they always had, but everything had changed. The secret was out. The galaxy knew what humanity could do. Commander Lee walked up beside her. Captain, do you think they will leave us alone now? Jiwon considered the question. Some species would respect the demonstration. Others might see it as a challenge. But overall, the revelation would make humanity safer. 3 weeks after the engagement, Ambassador Young-Mi Han stood before the Galactic Council again. The atmosphere was different this time. The chamber was quieter. Representatives watched her with attention that mixed respect and caution. The Council had called this session to address what many species were now calling the human question. What did it mean that humanity had concealed such powerful weapons for decades? What other capabilities might they be hiding? Could they be trusted? Han had prepared for this moment carefully. She knew that complete honesty was necessary now. The era of careful ambiguity was over. Members of the Council, she began, I stand before you today to explain the choices that humanity made when we joined the galactic community 30 years ago. Some of you have questions about our deception. Some have concerns about our weapons. I will address both. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's technological profile from 3 decades earlier. This was humanity when we achieved interstellar travel and made first contact. We had fusion power, basic plasma shields, and conventional weapons. By galactic standards, we were primitive. At least 50 species possessed technology centuries ahead of ours. The display shifted to show diplomatic communications from the early years. We faced a choice. We could acknowledge our technological limitations and hope that more advanced species would respect our weakness. Or we could craft a reputation that would deter aggression while we developed genuine defensive capabilities. We chose the second path. Counselor Miralyn spoke up, her voice carrying genuine curiosity rather than accusation. Ambassador Han, how did you maintain this deception for so long? Surely species were scanning your technology, analyzing your capabilities. We were careful about what we showed, Han explained. Our ships did use conventional technology. That was not a lie. But we spoke about our capabilities in ways that suggested more than we actually possessed. We used diplomatic language that was technically truthful, but deliberately misleading. She brought up examples of past statements. For instance, "I once said that humanity possesses weapons capable of planetary destruction. This is true. We have nuclear weapons, so do most spacefaring species. But the way I said it implied we had something more exotic. We also positioned our ships strategically to avoid conflicts, which made us seem either very powerful or very wise. We were actually just buying time." A representative from an aquatic species, known for their philosophical approach to conflict, spoke with what might have been amusement. So humanity's great strength was patience and careful word choice. "Initially, yes," Han replied. "But while we maintained that illusion, we were also developing real capabilities. Project Longbow was not created overnight. It took 20 years of research, construction, and testing. We built weapons platforms slowly, disguising them as mining operations, and sensor stations. The display showed technical specifications of the kinetic weapon systems. We focused on kinetic weapons because the galaxy had optimized defenses against energy-based attacks. Shields, armor, point defense systems, all designed for directed energy weapons and explosive missiles. Nobody was prepared for simple mass moving at relativistic velocities. The Corthan engineering representative, who had spoken during the previous session, studied the specifications with obvious interest. "Elegant," he said. "Brutally simple. The technology is not advanced by our standards, but the application is brilliant." "You exploited a gap in galactic defensive doctrine." "Exactly," Han agreed. "We could not compete with older civilizations in exotic technologies, but we could think differently about how to apply the technologies we understood." Another counselor, representing a militaristic species, raised a concern that Han had been expecting. "Ambassador, you have revealed devastating weapons. What assurance can you give that humanity will not use them for conquest? You deceived us about your capabilities for decades. Why should we trust your intentions now?" Han met his gaze directly. "You should judge us by our actions, not our words. We had these weapons for 20 years. We never used them offensively. We were attacked repeatedly by the Velcoran Empire. We responded only when they crossed into our territory after explicit warnings. Even then, we used minimum necessary force to end the threat." She brought up footage from the engagement. "Look at the targeting patterns. We could have destroyed the entire Velcoran fleet in the first salvo. We chose to disable key ships and give them the opportunity to retreat. This was not weakness. It was deliberate restraint. Humanity's goal has always been security, not dominance." Counselor Miralyn stood, signaling her support. "I have worked with Ambassador Han for 15 years. I have watched humanity navigate complex diplomatic situations with patience and wisdom. Yes, they concealed their weapons. But they also maintained peace. They could have revealed Project Longbow at any time to gain political leverage. They chose not to. That speaks to their character." The council chamber fell into discussion. Representatives debated among themselves, their translators creating a mix of languages. Finally, the council leader called for order and addressed Han directly. "Ambassador Han, the council acknowledges that humanity acted within its rights to defend its territory. We also recognize that your deception, while unusual, was not technically illegal. However, moving forward, we expect complete transparency about your military capabilities." Han nodded slowly. "We are prepared to share information about our defensive systems with the council. However, I must be clear that humanity will not compromise our security by revealing every detail of our capabilities. We will maintain defensive superiority in our territory, but we have no interest in developing offensive capabilities for conquest." The council leader considered this. "That is acceptable. All species maintain some military secrets. We ask only that you do not again conduct such extensive deception about your general capabilities." "Agreed," Han replied. On Earth, in a secure facility beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Hei-Rin Choi oversaw the construction of new weapons platforms. These were not hidden. They were declared to the Council as part of Earth's defensive network. The era of secrecy was over, but the commitment to defense continued. Admiral Tae-Sung Kim visited the facility to inspect the new construction. He walked through the assembly areas where magnetic accelerators were being built with improved efficiency. The new platforms would be faster, more accurate, and openly acknowledged. Dr. Choi met him in the observation deck overlooking the main construction floor. "We are building these in the open now," she said. "No more hiding. The galaxy knows what we have. Does that make you nervous? Kim asked, a little, Choi admitted. The element of surprise is gone, but I think Ambassador Han is right. Respect is more sustainable than fear. Species will think twice about attacking us not because they do not know what we have, but because they do know. Kim nodded. He had spent decades managing the deception, and part of him felt relief that it was over. But another part worried about the future. Revealed strength came with its own challenges. On the ESS Horizon, Captain Ji-won Park conducted her patrol with a sense of change. The ship passed through the neutral zone as it always had, but now other vessels gave them a wider berth. The respect was tangible. Commander Sung-Ho Lee brought her the latest intelligence reports. Other species were analyzing the engagement, trying to understand the principles behind kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds. Some were developing countermeasures. Others were attempting to replicate the technology. They are trying to catch up, Lee observed. Let them try, Ji-won said. By the time they match what we revealed, we will have developed something else. The advantage was never the specific weapons. It was the willingness to think differently. The Velcoran Empire had withdrawn all claims to disputed territories. High Commander Vexthar had been stripped of rank and imprisoned for his miscalculation. Fleet Admiral Corvin, who had survived the engagement, had been promoted to the Supreme Military Council and was now advocating for peaceful relations with humanity. The galaxy was adjusting to a new reality. Humanity was not the primitive newcomer species anymore. They were not the mysterious advanced civilization either. They were something in between. A species that had used patience and creativity to overcome technological limitations. Ambassador Han returned to Earth for a brief vacation after months of intensive diplomatic work. She stood in her apartment in Geneva, looking out at the mountains. Her career had been built on careful language and strategic ambiguity. Now she would have to adapt to a new style of diplomacy. Direct, honest, confident without deception. Her communication terminal chimed. It was a message from Counselor Miralyn, Ambassador Han. I wanted to tell you that I always suspected humanity was hiding something. I just thought you were hiding weakness, not different strength. Well played. Our species look forward to continued friendship with Earth, now based on truth rather than careful words. Your friend Miralyn, Han smiled. The Etherian counselor had always been perceptive. She composed a reply. Counselor Miralyn, thank you for your support during these difficult weeks. You were right that we were hiding something, but we were also genuine in our commitment to peace. That part was never deception. We simply preferred that peace be maintained through reputation, rather than demonstration. Your friendship is valued, Ambassador Han.